Custody battle chaos, revealing my wife's deceptive tactics to keep our daughter. Sitting in that cold, sterile courtroom, I felt like I was in a scene from a bad 80s action movie. You know the kind, the one where the hero has to save the world from certain doom, but first, they have to endure hours of gratuitous slow-motion shots and cheesy one-liners. That was my life, minus the hero part and the slow-motion shots, although that does sound somewhat appealing right about now. I was there, frozen in a state of panic, as my ex-wife Rachel stood across from me, armed with a courtroom attorney and a truckload of venom. It was like she was determined to put an end to my life as I knew it. No more daily pizza parties with Lily, no more bedtime stories, and definitely no more Netflix binge-watching marathons. I mean, who needs those things when you can have a fancy schmancy private school and a dad who's only around for custody hearings? As I glanced around the courtroom, I spotted the obligatory friendly faces. The balding judge, the bored court reporter, and of course, the obligatory weeping mother in the front row, who coincidentally was Rachel's sister. They all looked like they'd seen it all before, like we were just another cute little dysfunctional family episode playing out before their very eyes. Now, I'm not saying I wasn't trying to keep it together, mainly because I had no idea how else to react when faced with a rondalesque soap opera adventure like this. But the problem was, Rachel had all the cards. She was like that one crazy aunt who always seems to have a court-ordered restraining order up her sleeve. Don't ask, it's a long story. Meanwhile, Lily sat innocently in the back seat of the courtroom, probably thinking, "Dad, why are you making this face? Can we get some ice cream now?" As for me, I was stuck in a world where everything felt like reality TV, and I was stuck in one of those awkward situations where you've got to muster up some courage, or pretend you're brave for 1 second to throw me for my mom who's freaking out outside her care. The suspense was eating away at me, folks. Who would win, Rachel's lawyer, the one with the dubious ability to make even the most boring court documents sound important? Or would I finally come up with something brilliantly unexpected, just like I always do on Netflix? Just kidding. Let's be real, folks. I'm no Michael J. Fox. I'll be the first to admit, I thought I had it all. The wife, the house, the white picket fence. My family life was like a scene from The Bachelor, minus the rose ceremonies, although let's be real, those things can be kind of fun. I was living the dream, or so I thought. We had our weekly princess tea parties, where my daughter, Lily, and I would indulge in sipping weak coffee from dainty cups while my wife, Rachel, beamed with pride. She was the quintessential perfect mom, always dressed to the nines in her skinny jeans and yoga pant combinations. Our friends would often remark on how we were like a family right out of a fairy tale. But little did anyone know, behind those sparkling eyes, Rachel was hiding a vodka-filled secret. I mean, it was more than just a secret. I'm talking multiple stuffed water bottles in the pantry kind of stuff. I'm no detective, but it didn't take a genius to detect the subtle, overt signs of addiction. People often ask, why didn't you notice sooner? Well, let me tell you, it took a whole lot of cluelessness and a sprinkle of denial. We were a team, Rachel and I. We were that we against the world unit, taking on life's challenges together. Or so I thought. In reality, I thought I was just doing my part in being a wonderful husband. Catching her, vodka in hand, while our little Lily slept peacefully in her bed, marked the end of that fairy tale. It was one of those moments where time speeds up and your heart just skips a beat. It was the bombshell that just wouldn't quit, the divorce papers and full custody demands. As I sat across from Matt, Rachel's cunning brother, in the courtroom, I couldn't help but feel like I was in a bad reality TV show. Matt was playing the role of the smooth-talking, take-no-prisoners lawyer with ease, and I was stuck in the witness stand, trying to defend myself against his absurd claims. They started by painting me as the ultimate workaholic. According to Matt, I spent most of my days holed up in my office, neglecting my family, and living in a world of spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentations. I mean, I like to think of myself as a bit of a workaholic, but not this bad. The clincher, though, was when they dropped the Darth Vader bombshell. I mean, who wouldn't want to be compared to the most iconic villain in the galaxy, right? They practically made me out to be a galactic brute, single-handedly holding down the galaxy and crushing all opposition with my underscore force-choking skills. But little did Matt know, I had a few war stories of my own up my sleeve. I pulled out the old photo album and started flashing pictures of Lily and me in all sorts of ridiculous moments, like the time we built a giant fort in the living room and had a 3 a.m. Nerf gun battle. I also regaled the courtroom with tales of our bedtime stories, where I'd morph into Chuck Norris, dodging flying pillows and sending pillows flying back. It was a tough battle, but with a few well-placed one-liners and dad jokes, I managed to give Matt a run for his money. In the end, I walked out of that courtroom feeling empowered. Who knew being the _ultimate cool dad _ would be such a valuable asset in a custody battle? I may not have had Matt's fancy suits or hair gel, but I had something he could never have, Lily's unwavering respect and adoration. And let's just say Matt was left looking a little deflated. His carefully crafted plans to paint me as the enemy had hit a snag. My self-deprecation skills were unmatched. Who knew being able to laugh at oneself could be such a valuable asset in a court of law? When it comes to family drama, you have to let your inner dad shine. I won't mince words. Navigating my way through the custody battle was a wild ride, comparable to trying to assemble IKEA furniture without instructions. The packaging could have been easier to decipher, but at least I didn't have to worry about being judged by a bunch of middle school principal types while I struggled to attach the back panel. Nope, with Lily's mom invoking the court system, the pressure was real. Every time I had to drop Lily off for her visitation, her mom's sweet way of saying family therapy in a courtroom setting, my heart would break into a million pieces, like the poorly stacked shelves from that IKEA bookshelf I tried to assemble solo. I'm pretty sure I'm still finding screws in the living room floor. The sheer anxiety of not knowing when I'd see my daughter next was making my normal dad humor sound like something out of a Twilight Zone episode. I had to remind myself that being a rock star magician is not the same as being a functioning human being. Even when Lily hands you an unrolled piece of paper with illustrations of fire trucks and dinosaurs riding space exploration vehicles, I'm fairly convinced she's a genius. But what kept me from completely losing it? Lily. That little spark in her eyes when she'd hide these adorable drawings of ourselves having tea parties with her favorite stuffed animals in the park. Seeing the bright side of a gloomy situation wasn't as glamorous as it seemed. In fact, it resembled the feeling of knowing I forgot to bring Lily's favorite chicken tenders to the courthouse cafeteria, an overall, emotionally strangled failure. Still, the victories were fleeting and sweet. Like when Lily handed me that makeshift drawing, and I found myself having to produce an exuberantly convincing laugh while hiding behind a hastily constructed smile. Who's got the Oscar now, I ask ye? A 6-year-old's innocent question, "Daddy, are you okay?" has now escalated to the top of my list of questions for aspiring actors to prepare for. Fast forward to those inevitable tear-filled showers that inevitably left me weeping in front of the bathroom mirror an hour later, wondering what I did wrong, wondering if I could be a good enough father this time around. I learned to reconcile my vulnerability by practicing strategically timed smile adjustments that would prevent onlookers from thinking Dad's lost it for the umpteenth time. The silver lining that's emerged from that twisted form of strategic face-making? Being accepted as the lead contender for the Best Dad Joke Ever title. Who knew winning awards would soothe your pain as much as chicken soup soothes your stomach? However, until that glorious day, I turned to showering off any evidence of my worn-out emotional state, to avoid developing what can only be described as dad cancer, chicken soup-induced diarrhea being the lethal byproduct. You lose all vestiges of dignity then. Anyway, I still remember the day I had to testify in that child custody court like it was yesterday. My heart was doing somersaults, a la an Olympic gymnast, and I'm pretty sure my palms were sweating more than a greasy donut shop on a hot summer day. But not my little Lily. She was a tiny tornado of confidence, strutting in like she owned the place in her favorite Frozen dress. I'm trying to blend in with the wall, I swear, but my little girl's eyes sparkled like she was about to give a Disney performance. The judge looked at her with a mixture of amusement and seriousness, trying to gauge her understanding of the situation. I held her hand tightly, whispering encouraging words in her ear. "This is it, kiddo. Just be yourself." The judge asked her a series of simple questions, but Lily made them sound like a college thesis. "Mommy sleeps a lot and sometimes talks funny, Your Honor," she said with a mock solemn expression, as if reporting a crime. Scene. "But Daddy makes me pancakes, Daddy reads me bedtime stories, and Daddy never misses our tea parties." She beamed with pride, like she was flaunting her fabulous grades. The courtroom fell silent for a nanosecond before erupting in a mix of chuckles and whispered gasps. I'm pretty sure I lost my poker face, but I tried to maintain my dignity by face-planting into my notes. Meanwhile, Lily reveled in the attention, enjoying the spotlight. When the judge asked her to describe her parents, she launched into an animated account of our daily routines. Mommy does arts and crafts with markers. I tried to color outside the lines. But giggle, Mommy says I'm a Picasso. And Daddy plays superhero with me, even with his silly fake mustache. Okay, I might not know who Superman is, but I do know that Dad is my Superman. She got her energy out, and the judge couldn't help but be charmed. Throughout the ordeal, I'm proud to say I held it together, for the most part. Lily, however, took center stage, answering questions as if she were in a game show. Do you love your mommy and daddy? She responded to a pointed question, grinning up at me. Yes, I love them, but not in the same way, like mommy squeezes tight and has stinky cheese breath, and daddy spanks my bottom. She burped softly on cue, proving her mettle for theatrical performance. Okay, maybe I didn't hold it together after all. Cringes all around, followed by warm giggles and brief silences. At that moment, I realized Lily's testimony wasn't just a coming-out party for my daughter. It was the release of my sanity. To laugh, to cry, and to finally focus on the real questions at hand. Is my daughter happy with mommy and daddy? Can we find a way to coexist for her sake? I looked at Lily, our court case's wild child, and felt a deep well of gratitude for this resilient 6-year-old. I smiled, with newfound confidence that this would be my lucky day. And for the first time, I truly believed our battle could be won without sacrificing anyone's emotional safety net. As I reflect on the events that led to the messy custody battle, I'm reminded of the moment when Rachel and Matt turned from grieving parents to amateur detectives, determined to uncover every shred of evidence that would support their allegations against me. It was a wild goose chase, with both sides flinging accusations left and right. That's when Rachel and Matt really started throwing everything at the wall to see what would stick. And honestly, it was like watching a game of Family Feud gone wrong. They claimed I was bribing Lily with toys, but let's be real, normal dads buy their kids stuff all the time. Apparently, being a good father who spoils his daughter occasionally is now grounds for suspicion. I mean, who doesn't love a good toy bribe every now and then? My approach to parenting was clearly a threat to the very fabric of society. Or at least that's what they'd have you believe. But, in a bizarre twist, they took it a step further by accusing me of dating Lily's teacher. Yes, you read that right, dating her teacher. Who does that, right? Well, actually, it was just a lovely, happily married woman who was only interested in teaching, not in being the third party in our soap opera. I guess Rachel and Matt thought they'd caught me red-handed, but instead, they ended up looking like the foolish parents they were. It's funny, but in a strange way, their desperation to sabotage me only proved one thing. They were running out of ideas. They were grasping at straws, anything to deflect attention from their own culpability in our marital demise. It was a desperate Hail Mary pass that ended up backfiring spectacularly. That's when karma decided to join the party. Remember those water bottles I mentioned in court? The so-called eco-friendly ones that my wife's best friend, Rachel, swore by? Well, fast forward a few weeks, and I'm sipping on a cold brew in the courtroom when she walks in with her water from the depths of her bag. I quote that word, water. I'm talking about a tattered old Nalgene, the kind you find in a high school gym locker. Let's just say it wasn't Evian in there. It was something I'm pretty sure could only be achieved by fermenting old gym socks. Now Matt, my super reliable friend and fellow attorney, was visibly stunned. His face turned redder than a lobster as it succumbed to a summer cookout. It was as if he was watching a rerun of Friday Night Lights. He knew what was coming but couldn't look away. And that's when it happened. The judge ordered a spot check. Before Matt's eyes glazed over, I caught a glimpse of his silently screaming, "Oh no, this is going to be ugly." Then, I was taken aback by the judge asking, "What's that peculiar odor?" And we all knew it was only going to get better. You see, this isn't a battle about sanity or common sense. It's about a manipulator using our child as a pawn in their game. Our Lily, an innocent victim who unwittingly found herself caught in her mom's dishonest web. As for that intoxication test the judge ordered, I still can't explain why my wife thought it would pass. Maybe she watched too many police dramas while binge-watching Netflix? One thing I'm certain of, Matt thought he'd lost all faith in humanity after that day. But here's my greatest payback yet. Lily was already in school that day. So while we were putting up with this ridiculous display, my lawyer prepared for the real moment of truth and managed to secure security footage that showed exactly what was going on. Now, I think karma has truly joined the party. As if the display of our water bottle wasn't enough, we received security footage from Lily's school that showed Rachel arriving to pick her up in an unapologetically clear state of intoxication. Picked her up implies she was there for her, but from what I could see, she was already running after the party bus, already catching the drunk bus, or whatever you'd call it if our neighborhood bar had won. In the end, after an increasingly revealing and engaging sequence of events, we finally put an end to this, and the game's over for now. I'd call this one game set match. I'm still trying to process the moment when the judge dropped the bombshell. My mind went blank, and all I could think about was Rachel, our little bundle of energy, who wasn't even present in court that day. I remember my wife trying to keep a straight face, but I could sense her discomfort growing by the minute. As the judge read out the decision, I felt like I was in a time warp, like time had literally come to a standstill. The courtroom fell silent, and all that was left was the sound of my heart pounding in my chest like a jackhammer. I was so focused on hearing those four magical words, "You are the custodial parent," that everything else seemed irrelevant. The news only sunk in when I heard my name. It was like a bomb had exploded, and I was left dazed and disoriented. Full custody awarded to me was etched in my memory forever. My wife's face turned from one of calm to a mixture of shock and despair in a split second. I'm pretty sure she had a few choice words for me in her head, but I guess the words, "not so fast, divorce lawyer," was on her mind. And then came the icing on the cake, supervised visitation for Rachel. I wanted to shout with joy, but all that came out was a half-hearted whisper of "really." I think I might have even choked a little on my own sobs. My daughter Lily, sensing the tension, grabbed my hand so tight I thought her tiny fingers were going to leave permanent imprints on my hand. I swear, I was crying so much that I looked like a malfunctioning sprinkler system, spraying water everywhere. The next few minutes were a blur of tears, hugs, and relieved gasps of air. My wife and I stood there, trying to make sense of the decision, while our daughters looked on, confused but happy. For once, everyone was in agreement. Rachel's name still brought tears of sadness, but Lily just squeezed my hand tighter, like she was saying, "Dad, you got this." It's a miracle I didn't drown in that deep, post-divorce pool of uncertainty. Who needs scuba gear when you've got Starbucks-fueled anxiety on your side? But as Instagrammable as it might seem to fall into that pool, it's not exactly what I had planned for my life. What I thought was going to be a smoothly executed, well-choreographed dance of fatherhood turned out to be a crazy, disorganized juggling act. I went from being the responsible father figure, making sure everyone was fed, bathed, and in bed on time, to just trying not to trip over my own feet. It was a wonder I made it through those early days without any major catastrophes, or at least without too many dad fails that would make it onto the internet. I guess you could say I had to learn the art of doing dad stuff by the seat of my pants. Literally. I'd be up in the middle of the night, patting myself on the back for managing to make it through potty training, only to realize that I had no idea how to properly braid a child's hair. Cue the YouTube tutorials. After a few missteps, many missteps, I mastered the fancy braid, minus any major hair pulling or child crying incidents. My daughter, Lily, on the other hand, was an absolute rock star during that period. She showed everyone, including me, that she could thrive in even the most chaotic of circumstances. When I awkwardly presented her with what looked like a burnt-in-the-oven offering, aka my cooking, she would say, with a completely straight face and an innocent twinkle in her eyes, "That's so delicious, Dad." And, you know what? For her sake, I'm going to keep practicing, or at least pretending that my cooking is a culinary masterpiece. It's hard to believe it's been 2 years since Lily's life changed forever. 2 years since my wife, Rachel, and I reached the boiling point of our custody battle. Looking back, it's a miracle my daughter is healing and thriving. I mean, who needs therapy when you have a mom who's a master at playing the blame game? I'm proud to say that Lily is now excelling in school. Teachers rave about her progress, and she's making friends who don't wear a permanent scowl on their faces, most of the time anyway. Her art projects are a hoot, especially when she draws me as a T-Rex, trying to gently grab her mom's hand at a tea party. Yes, you read that right. Princess tea parties have evolved, and now they feature a special guest, T-Rex. According to Lily, T-Rexes enjoy Earl Grey tea because, let's face it, who doesn't love a good game of dynamite with a steaming cup of Earl Grey in one hand and a dainty cupcake in the other? I'm glad she's learning to appreciate the finer things in life, like a good cup of tea and a plate of pink frosted cupcakes. I've got a sneaking suspicion that's all she's been asking for at the princess tea parties, but a dad can dream, right? As for Rachel, she's taking steps in the right direction. That's right, I said it. She's taking steps. It's like watching a toddler learn to walk, albeit a very dramatic and tearful process. But hey, progress is progress, right? It's about time my ex-wife realized she needed help, and I'm not just talking about with the court-ordered therapy. It's good to see her seeking guidance on how to be a, somewhat, functional adult, even if that means attending parenting classes and calling her mom. Way to take a page from my book, Rachel. And what's this? Lily is still telling her mom to eat healthily? Who would have thought that after multiple disaster meals where Rachel would insist on feeding her and herself a kale-based smoothie that tastes suspiciously like someone poured an entire bottle of vinegar into a blender? Am I the only one who remembers the time Lily fainted from excessive healthy eating and ended up in the ER with scary words like hypokalemia and kidney stones? Anyway, Lily needs her mom, but a healthy version, please. With a healthy dose of reality checking every now and then wouldn't hurt. I mean, I know that after 2 years, Lily is still proud of her mom, even if she doesn't entirely understand the complex web of lies and deceptions that is Rachel's world. Who am I kidding? She's still a toddler. Now, who wants to join me for a spot of tea and a dynamite adventure? As I sit here with my gorgeous daughter in my arms and a delightful cup of tea in front of us, I'm filled with a mix of emotions, love, gratitude, and relief. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the whirlwind journey that we've been on, but one thing is for sure, it's one that I'll never forget. One of the most humbling experiences for me was when I had to represent myself in court, armed with nothing but my wits, a pack of Depends, and a Disney movie or two to quote. Some might say I was crazy for taking on the system, but little did they know that I had a secret weapon on my side, my daughter. As we navigated the treacherous waters of the court system, we encountered our fair share of villains. Matt, who thought he could outsmart me with his fancy lawyer tricks, but ended up getting smacked down with a Bambi quote in court. Okay, maybe I won't do that every time, but still, it felt pretty sweet at the moment. Throughout our journey, I learned that sometimes the hardest battles are fought not just in courtrooms, but in our hearts. It's the quiet moments, the tea parties, and the late-night conversations with your child that remind you of what's truly important. It's not about winning or losing, but about staying true to what you believe in. In my case, giving my daughter the love and stability she deserves. Now, I know what you're thinking. How did you stay sane through all this? Well, let me tell you, it wasn't easy, but there were a few things that kept me going. One of them was my daughter's unwavering support. The other was my trusty Starbucks coffee fund. And last but not least, my amazing friends who offered me more Eminem diss tracks than I care to admit. But in all seriousness, I wouldn't change a thing. Every tear, every argument, and every late-night panic was worth it. Because at the end of the day, we're reminded that the love between a parent and child is stronger than any lawyer's argument or any ex's manipulation. As I look into my daughter's eyes, I'm reminded of the wise words of Bambi. If you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all. In short, family mediation is the way to go, folks. But seriously, if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, remember this. Stay strong, stay honest, and never skip the tea parties. Your child's heart will thank you.